Yeah, I mean, yeah, it happens. I mean, um, so there people say that, is it going to be any of worth, and is there any worth in doing all this, conservative movement stuff, and especially the pro-life movement stuff? Because at the end of the day, people will call you patriarchal, people will call you, let's say, religious and religiously fanatic, and imposing your morality on others, and misogynistic, and so on and so forth. So is there any worth in doing so? And what about, like, in the pages of history? And this is, I've often wondered, that see, the countries which allow abortion are usually countries which are, western countries, and which are um, developed countries in terms of economic and other social indicators, and even in terms of freedom to do whatever one wants to do. On the other hand, the countries which purely follow, in many occasions, which purely follow the rule towards abortion is Islamic countries. And these are one of the very few things that I like about Islamic countries. And that is that, they they don't allow abortion at all, and that's actually where the pro-life movement is going, is to be, going. I mean, there are other countries where, for certain cases you can allow abortion. For cases of rape, incest, etc., you can allow abortion. For certain, till certain months, you can allow abortion. I mean, those are not purely pro-life countries. Islamic countries as of today, and some Christian countries, in my opinion, especially Philippines, are pro-life countries now. And yes, these Islamic countries can claim to, in future, that look, especially the Middle Eastern countries who are quite rich, that we were also rich, and we were pro-life as well when the entire world was pro-choice. Similarly, Philippines can also claim that. Now, is this ever going to happen? Is the world ever going to be a pro-life world? Um, we often compare slavery to, the abortion, and we see that there was once, especially, Ben Shapiro in March for Life has said that, it's okay if, there are just few people who are pro-life, because once absolutionists were also just few in numbers. They were not majority. But today, the morality of the society regarding slavery is that of the absolutionist. And so, they have successfully, made sure that, the world imbibes their philosophy. And today we glorify them, we love them, and we consider them heroes. We consider all those who, work for the dignity of slaves, and worked against slavery, as heroes. And that's simply because, and especially of how the discrimination they faced because of their works, the comments that people made on them, and so on. But is pro-life movement going to happen? Is pro-life movement going to be like that, or will we always be considered as religiously fanatic, and so on? So let's say pro-life movement since the start, since abortion became legalized in many countries, pro-life movement, the pro-lifers have always been seen as religiously fanatic people. So, will we, in the pages of history, be always be seen as religiously fanatic people? Will we ever succeed? Uh, the question is that even if you succeed or even if you don't, in my opinion, and this is because I am a Christian, but even if you are an atheist, this is the thing. You are a pro lifer because you, in your conscience, believe that what abortion is intrinsically wrong. Whether the whole world accepts it or doesn't accept it, you, in your conscience, believe that it's intrinsically wrong. Now, for example, let's say if the world, let's take an example which is considered okay. So, for example, let's talk about marital rape. I mean, in many countries, in many Western countries, marital rape is an offense. But let's say in few countries, for example, in India and so on, marital rape is not an offense. Now, there are people who, you know, there are people who advocate for the marital rights, and then the people who say that okay, no, my wife had given the consent right at the right at or to say the time of marriage that she is going to be a wife, and then there is no case of marital rape and so on. And in my opinion, afterwards, what would happen, let's say, because of global warming, if you are not Christian and you just don't believe in the end of the world by Bible, let's say about global warming, if the world just gets destroyed and marital rape is never criminalized in India, doesn't mean that those people who were advocating for marital rape are anyway wrong, or were anyway wrong. It's and Just because the world accepts your philosophy at the end of the day doesn't mean that you were victorious. It could also happen that for a brief period of time the world will accept your philosophy, and then for a afterwards the world will reject your philosophy. For example, I mean, if you are a communist, people first looked at communists and they say that massacre people who used to commit massacres. Then people say, oh no, they are not the people who used to kill brutally others. They are revolutionaries and they are going for purpose, etc. So, in some sense, at least for communists, that movement changed. That their perception of what is true, correct, changed. But at the same time, I mean, that was because the conscience was not formed in a proper manner. But after the fall of communism, almost the entire world agrees that Stalin and Mao, etc., were cruel dictators, and they killed mercilessly many people. So this is about it. So in my opinion, and this is I would this I would answer this with a story. So uh, there was a fire in, I don't know whether it's popular in America or not. I don't know if popular in the Western world or not. It's certainly popular in India. Um, there was a bird. There was a house which was burning, and there was a small bird. Um, the everyone, firefighters and everyone, was trying to make sure that the house doesn't get fully burned and the fire should be extinguished, and do whatever you can to just put the fire down, like that the house should not be burnt. And people were using all kinds of things. People were throwing water and so on and so forth. And there was this bird which was trying to pick water droplets from the sea, and put it in the make it fall before the over the house. And so when the how people said, oh, nothing is going to it would absolutely have no effect, and so on and so forth. And the fire is big, and this droplets are just few. And so once people ask this bird, why are you doing that? And the bird says that I'm not doing this because this in my opinion would have any effect or not. It might have some effect or it might not have some effect. But I am doing this because when history would be written, then people would see me not people would count me amongst those who tried to exhaust this fire rather than who kindled it. And who just remained neutral and who were just bystanders. And this history would always have three people. There would be always people who never made an opinion over the atrocities that was happening. There were people who openly aggravated those atrocities, and there were people who who attacked those atrocities, who fought against those atrocities. And now the thing is this: who will write the history? So this is important because uh, I am pretty much sure the way we conceive our past is based on our biases in present. So if you are, let's say, and who you think yourself are. For example, you know, as I told you, you know, you think about French Revolution, and you think about the ideals of equality, liberty, and fraternity. Nobody talks about the persecution of churches that happened during French Revolution. Even if there was persecution of churches, people think, okay, it's it was quite good, because churches in Middle Ages, churches was were doing a lot of things that were done bad, and therefore it's right and just, or that and you kind of ignore the persecution that happened to the church when during the French Revolution, Catholic Church during the French Revolution. During the reign of terror, so many people were killed, and so on and so forth. But you ignore it. You also ignore the persecution of Christians in communist Russia, and other places of where communism ruled. And this is because you don't care. I mean, for you, liberties of equality, fraternity, etc. is a stand of liberalism. Is considered important for liberalism, and therefore you want to highlight that part, and you just don't want to see the persecution of Christianity. um, Now that is because the history, etc., the popular history is narrated by the liberals. If popular history, and many times it was narrated by communists, there was a time popular history was narrated by communists, and so all these communist massacres that happened was set by the in the part of welfare for workers and welfare for laborers, etc., was only highlighted, and these kind of massacres that happened were actually not highlighted in the histories that were written by the communists regarding the communism. And even if there were these attacks, the words which were used were revolution and means achieving, means, different means taken for achieving the same end, and so on and so forth. Similarly, for any kind of violent freedom fight that countries have. So it's always a proverb that a freedom fighter for one is a terrorist for another. So that's the case with almost all freedom struggle that happened, especially the violent ones. Um, so in midst of this, who is going to write the history, and who is going to write the proper history? As a Christian, I believe that in the end of the at the end of the world, the there will be a book that was opened, and it would be a judgment day, and every record has been kept on who supported which movement and who opposed which movement and who was where, who took part in which activity, and so on. And that would be the clear cut, unbiased, and the historical truth account, which lays out everything without any biases, because it comes from the truth. And I'm pretty much sure that even if, let's say, the world doesn't even if the world doesn't accept the pro-life cause, uh, definitely Christ would see my name among the pro-lifers and would bless me. That's the thing why I work for the pro-life cause. That's the thing why every pro-lifer should work for a pro-life cause. That's the thing why every pro-lifer should not be disheartened by the number of abortions that are happening. And you are thinking that okay, I mean, I should leave this thing because it's no more, because these disappointments are very natural. When you see that you are working day and night for a particular cause, and it is people are hating you, people are not talking to you. If you are a pro-life in university, then I don't know, I mean, I pray for you, because you would have a terrible life in university life. All your friends would call you misogynist and all these things, and at some point of time we were saying, look, This is going nowhere. All that I am doing, I'm uploading Facebook status, I'm uploading Instagram status regarding pro-life movements. I'm joining some of the pro-life leagues, and I'm going out and before the Planned Parenthood and praying and all these things. It's not going to have, it's not going anywhere. Pro-life, pro-choice people are increasing, and so on and so forth. uh, and But this is the thing. The the bird didn't want it to see whether it would be rational, logical, and etc. To see that that particular drop, which droplet that she wanted, that it should fell over the fire, and whether it should be able to extinguish the fire or not. What she wanted was that at the end of the day, when history would be written, her name should come on on the part of people who wanted to extinguish the fire and not to kindle it, or were not bystanders either. And this is something which pro-lifers have to look at. uh, I mean, world is evil. The world has always rejected Christ, and most probably the world will also reject, let's say, pro-life cause, maybe, or maybe they could accept it. I mean, uh, the slavery was rejected by the world, and for good cause. So it's not that everything that that is Christian will be rejected by the world. Perhaps there might come a day, but at least for right now, there are so many things which are Christian, which are accepted by world, and perhaps this thing could also be accepted by the world in general. And we should work for that cause. And even if it doesn't happen, even if it never comes a time when the Western world at least be pro-life, still it doesn't doesn't get you anywhere wrong, because your name has been written, has been mentioned on the records of the true history which would be written. So yeah, and that is it.